Today we're working with the energy of our thoughts. This is part of our series on somatic mindfulness. And this is around the neural part of it, the brain. And I know from experience that our brain generates a lot of associated thoughts. We store trauma in our body. And so some of those thoughts are from the sensations. They're associated with the sensations in our body. A lot of them are from our nervous system. And when we have any kind of a fright, we might have a sudden memory of something comes up, something that's associated with this. Our nervous system is very evidence-based. And so it's going to bring forward everything that ever happened to us that was a little bit negative that might fit into this scenario so that we take the appropriate action to protect ourselves now. That's the real beauty of somatic mindfulness, is that we can feel what's in our body. We're not so carried away by it. And over time, we dispel some of those associated thoughts, not by pushing them away or making them go back unconscious, but by really being present to them. This is how our nervous system works. We have this unconscious process for detecting threat, and then we go into fight, flight, or freeze. Almost all of the thoughts in our mind are associated with the nervous system somehow. It might be that we're ruminating about something that happened in the past, or we're worried about something in the future. But being hypervigilant interferes with our safety, actually. And we have this nervous system that's not as suited to modern conditions as it was to the past. Our ancestors all had this instinct to react quickly to danger. And the kind of danger that was mostly present was physical, a wild animal or something. And now the social threats and the emotional threats are more what we're looking with, along sometimes with physical threat. This old system of reactivity and the fact that that's what our ancestors had in order to survive counts against us when we're in the kind of world that we're in now. There's two main types of thinking: catastrophic thinking and ruminating. Catastrophic thinking, we go into the future to try to predict anything that could possibly go wrong, and so that we could protect ourselves from it, which you'd think would be helpful, but what it does is it jacks us up, and then we don't have access to our full mind and our full resources. Ruminating is the opposite direction. We go into the past. We're looking for some kind of different outcome. We think of that perfect thing we could have said, for instance. There's just such a deep sense of, this is unfair, what happened. I was not judged fairly. And we want to have a second chance at that, or maybe a first chance. Sometimes we're just totally dismissed. So ruminating is often we're trying to have a different outcome to the situation in the past. So what do we do with that? One of the ways is that we use the somatic body mindfulness to be present so that we can intervene. If we go into a stream of catastrophic thinking, for instance, and we notice it, before we get too far into it, we can notice, oh, I'm holding my breath. I'm feeling really tense. And then we can tune into the thoughts in our mind and go, oh, okay, I'm worrying about this and this, and I'm going way down this stream that I know is not going to be helpful. So we can come back. The other thing is to build more resilience and strength in our nervous system. As we do that, then our neuroception, our perception of threat, becomes more accurate. We don't have as many hypervigilant thoughts. We're not as likely to go into catastrophic thinking or ruminating. So let's pause here for a moment and think about or witness the kinds of thoughts. We have thoughts that are neutral, negative, or positive. Usually the negative thoughts are the ones that grab our attention mostly, and that's related to staying safe. We have descriptive observations, and those are happening in our mind all the time. I'm holding my breath, the air in my nostrils feels cool. We're just describing what's happening to us, what we're noticing. And then we might add on a layer of judgment. We might say something simple like, it's too hot for me today, or I don't like the look on that person's face. But we might also get into some kind of judging. That tends to have quite a hook in us as well when we start to judge ourselves or others. And then we have these trains of thoughts. And again, it's coming back to the associative properties of the mind. The mind is going to go from one thing to the next to the next. And part of the reason it does that is to pull forward all those files out of our unconscious mind. We might find ourselves thinking about something unrelated, and that might be partly a flight response, like a dissociation. We might be thinking about times in the past when something similar happened to us. Our brain just has all of this stuff going on all the time. And that one of the keys to this is to learn how to witness our thoughts. Thought comes in as words that we hear or see and images that we see. That's the same for everybody. Sometimes people have a very visual mind where they have a lot of thoughts coming in as images. Sometimes people will say, I have like this cartoon image, or I see it like a painting, or I see it like a video clip. But the content of our thoughts comes from our own personal life. So it's our own pool of thoughts, memories, and experiences. And skewed by how the nervous system is assessing that in terms of our safety. So some of the things that have happened to us don't mean enough or don't have enough of a charge to be stored, really, even. And sometimes things aren't stored because they happen all the time. It's like every time you came home and had dinner when you were a child, for instance. There was a lot of things that were scary about that. You're going to have more of a memory and a body memory. But if it was just a regular day, there was nothing scary going on. Or every time you sat down to do your homework, or every time what all of that stuff is. We don't remember every time we answer the phone because it's not important to us. But some things that are stored in our unconscious are repressed and we don't know about them. Then they come forward when we watch and witness our stream of thoughts. We notice that some of those are from the past. The way that trauma is stored in our body is that we have this feeling in our body, and then we have memories and thoughts that are velcroed or stuck to that feeling. That's one of the reasons why when we go into sensation, we can use sensation and awareness of sensation to remain present in this moment. And we can recall what happened in the past by the memories that are linked to the sensation. And the key to healing trauma and not getting dragged back into that experience of the past, and we actually literally think we're in the past with traumatic memory. The key to that is to maintain awareness that we're here in the present. We can do that with all kinds of tools, which we're going to go into. We can do tapping, we can hold our own hand, we can do all kinds of breathing. So that's the key, is this is how the nervous system works. And these memories are compelling. And in order to stay present, we have things that we can do to stop that. As we're going through these next series here, bring to mind something and notice what your experience is. Bring to mind an experience you've had recently and look out of it through your own eyes. I can see the trees outside, whatever it is you can see. But if you were to take a step back, form an image of yourself in the picture, then notice what the difference is there. So when we have an image, we could take it and put it up, for instance, on the right corner of our visual field. We do this one a lot. We open our eyes, put it in the wall on the other side of the room, put it into a frame. We notice I'm looking at an image of something. So when we do this with traumatic memory, it helps us to know I'm not back there. I'm looking at a memory. We don't do this with all of our thoughts because we don't need to work with all of our thoughts. Most of the thoughts that happen, we're still well aware that we're here in the present moment. It's the traumatic memories that we do these kinds of tools with. So if an image comes up and it feels kind of sticky or it feels like it's too intense, you notice you're holding your breath, you're tightening up, then there's a couple things that we'll go through now that are really effective tools. One is to tap on your forehead. And all this does is bring ourselves back into this moment. You could make circles on your forehead. You could do anything, really, tap on your body. But just tapping gently, bring your attention into the sound and the sensation of the tapping. And then take a couple of deep breaths. Quite often when we do that, the image has changed. Sometimes it gets kind of blurry. Often it doesn't feel as real because now we've used the tapping to come back into our body where we know that we're not back in that memory, we're here. Another tool that we use all the time is to put it into a frame, the image. Having your eyes open helps because it brings our present moment environment into view too. But put it into a frame. Put the image in the middle, then the frame, and then notice the space on the outside of the frame. So take a minute to bring up some kind of an image. And then take your eyes around the empty space in each direction a couple of times. Literally let your eyes move around. And then look back at the image that's in the frame. Another thing that we might do is to focus shift. So look at the image, really bring that into your visual attention. And then look at the image, but widen your peripheral vision so you can see everything else that's on that wall. I have a bunch of artwork my grandchildren did on that wall, so I could see that. There's some pictures, the windows. And then focus your eyes right on that image again. And then again, go back to the wider view. You might also notice the space between you and the wall where that image is. Notice that you're not right in that experience right now. Those are three of the tools that we will often use to maintain this awareness. Right now, I'm in the present moment. Let's do a somatic inquiry together. If you have something that you're thinking about, might come to mind. Otherwise, you could just go through and see what comes up. We're going to pretend that we're sitting behind our head. Imagine that you're sitting behind your brain, and we're going to watch thoughts as they rise and fall. We'll go back to that previous. Some are positive, neutral, or negative. Some are just descriptions. I notice that I'm breathing. I notice that my feet on the floor. Some might be judging. I find a lot of the thoughts go right in the background, and sometimes we also get caught in a train of thought. Let's look at that for a moment. Just witness the thoughts that come through. You notice that some things you hardly notice. They're really quiet. They just move through the background. What's the energy of your thoughts right now? We've all experienced high intensity, low intensity, and everything in the middle. What's the energy of your thoughts right now? Are they compelling? Are they just kind of quiet? What's the content? If we have any kind of content that feels like it's a threat or that we need to be alert around, it's going to have more energy to pull us in. So notice what's your situation right now. And as you're reflecting on that, what's the predominant type of energy and thought in your mind right now? These days, the last several months, few years, whatever comes to mind. I used to be absolutely stuck in compulsive and catastrophic thinking, and that doesn't really happen anymore. What's your situation in terms of how your mind has changed? What is your usual situation in your mind? And that will be highly affected if you have something that you're worried about right now. And what is your experience in your body? Do you tend to be pretty relaxed? Do you notice that your breath is smoother now? Or are you noticing more that, whoa, when I think about that, I notice I'm really holding my breath? What's your experience with that? Let's take another minute or so watching your thoughts, noticing the energy of that. Notice what's going on in your body as well. Use the tools, tapping, tracing, focus shifting. If something's getting too intense or if you're getting really caught in something, And bring yourself back to your body and to witnessing. And before we finish the inquiry, notice if there's something going on that you would like to work with. Maybe it's that you're noticing that right now you're worried about something. Maybe you have a health issue going on, or there's something else. And you have a lot of a certain kind of thought or a lot of a certain kind of sensation. How could you use these tools and this awareness of the nervous system to work more effectively with that? And one of the things that often happens is that we criticize ourselves. The inner critic comes in about, well, you should know better than that, or you should be more stable than that, or whatever it might be. So see if you could also bring some kindness in. We all have these nervous systems that are designed for something different than what we're experiencing now. Could we bring some empathy and compassion to ourselves as well?